Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jaronism, back with another video for you today. A globe with gas pressure next to a vacuum? Yes, another runner-up in the growing list of pseudoscience that's taught to us as actual science. In this case, we have something that 99% of the world believes in that is clearly impossible nonsense. And now, we will show that. To show an example of how religious zealots refuse to recognize deception and instead argue in favor of the deceivers, we are going to be listening and commenting on a small portion of a recent Flat Earth debate video, number 701, called Wiggles Fallacies. Of course, on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, you can find all of these debates and catch them live as well. All of Nathan's channels are linked in the description, but you gotta check it out. It is an open hangout where anyone can jump on the panel and debate the shape of the Earth. These videos can be found daily, and so I do recommend that you subscribe so you can keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. So let's dive in, and I will be stopping the video here and there to show you some diagrams and to help you, the viewer, understand. Now we are picking up from a point where Wiggles, a regular on the show who argues on behalf of the globe, is telling everyone that he has checked Himawari photos of Earth and contrasted them with ISS photos at the same time and that they match. Nathan is arguing that space is a fake medium and pointing out the Wiggles fallacy of affirming the consequent, if P then Q, Q then P. If these pictures of clouds claim to be taken from space of Earth match the ones taken from Earth, then the pictures must be taken from space. It's a formal logical fallacy. Now let's listen in.
Oh no, I'm not. This doesn't prove something. It just is a test that would show that there was a contradiction there. Like I'm looking for a possible contradiction. If the cloud formations were different, then I say, well, okay, then something's up here.
No.
That would
No, they're taken from a fake region. Don't worry about the cloud formations. They could just easily replicate them like I can replicate Narnia out in a region of Scotland and just say that I've gone through a wardrobe to get there. Like you're saying that you've gone into a region that can't exist to take these pictures. You still don't seem to be getting it. You're ignoring my debunking of the region the pictures have come from completely, Wiggles. You keep reasserting that you want to make your point regardless of the problems revolving around the region that they're taken from. You're just ignoring that, right, Wiggles? Moving on because it doesn't fit with your example.
At this point, someone posts in the chat a link to a video detailing the Himawari photos are simply layers. Wiggles then clicks the link and says,
well, it's a Mark Sargent video, so it's from a flat earther. Can't trust it.
oh, okay, gotcha. If any flat earther posts a video, we should ignore it. It can't be trusted. But what we should trust is anyone saying that these images must come from space. That makes sense, Wiggles. No room for deception there.
Right, but we can trust the region that defies the second law of thermodynamics, can we? So we should just ignore all of our objections and trust that you can defy the second law of thermodynamics in this region no one's going to. You've not been there. You saying you've compared what the Himawari does. You haven't. You haven't been there. You don't know that space is real. You haven't got the vaguest clue. It defies the second law of thermodynamics, but you'll defend it to the hilt, or at this stage, just completely ignore that objection and move on to the pictures anyway, and start picking them apart, even though they can't possibly be real.
Well, let's address that that you think space violates the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh, really? What like we've been trying to do for the last 50 minutes?
Well, yes, it does violate the law of nature that is the second law of thermodynamics. It's a law because it has never been proven wrong. Ever. Hence, it's a law. Hot flows to cold, high pressure to low pressure, always and forever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no worries. You can't have gas pressure without a container. The gas that we all breathe needs something to press on. It's pressure. That's what defines it. So at the top, Wiggles, of your belief in a vacuum, what's the gas pressure pressing on?
It's not pressing on anything.
Well, then it can't be here. It would dissipate into the vacuum. The gas would fill the space, Wiggles 2019. If it's not pressing on anything, it's going to disperse, Wiggles.
Okay, yeah, so for clarity, Nathan, I'm going to now entertain the idea that you are saying.
It's not my idea that I am saying, it is. This is probably the 6th time I've said this on this show. This is not my idea. It does not need entertaining. It is a law of nature. Not my idea.
But Nathan, don't you think like all these professors would have picked up on this if there were a contradiction there? Don't you think all these professors who study the thermodynamics, entropy, wouldn't they have picked up on this?
They did. I've got a video out from an MIT professor that explains that if you have gas pressure next to a vacuum and you don't have a barrier, the gas fills the space.
And so I do happen to have said MIT lecture, so let's watch together so we can verify what this professor is saying.
All right, let's try another pretty simple process. Let's just take a gas in some volume, V, and over here is going to be vacuum, V equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available.
So it seems they do know this, Wiggles. It's a law, a natural law. Not my idea, not something that needs entertaining. A natural law. The gas would fill the space.
Yeah, wouldn't all these professors realize that?
Yeah, they do! Are you deaf?
Modern science?
Are you deaf? There's plenty of lectures on the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, if the second law of thermodynamics implied space doesn't exist.
It does. That's precisely what it implies.
It implies space does exist?
No. That if you have a vacuum, a vast space, then the gas would fill that space. Unless, of course, there's something to press upon. There isn't, so we can't have space. That's the point. Well done, Wiggles. That's exactly what it implies. That natural law. Not my opinion, not what I think. That natural law that holds true always. That natural law would suggest that space is fake. So, do you have something that contravenes that law beyond your religious belief of space? Or is that your only proof that you can defy this natural law, your religious belief in space?
Okay, so Nathan, if the second law...
Seems like you're asking me a question. Do you have any proof beyond your religious belief about what Earth is and what space is that defies this natural law that holds true always?
Nathan, it's like you're stuck here. You can't get past where you're like stumbling over your own belief.
Oh wow. So Nathan is stumbling over his own belief? Have you ever heard of projection? It is not flat earthers who are stumbling on their own beliefs. It is those who claim space is real, despite the evidence against it. It's those who cannot shed the chains of public indoctrination. They are the ones stumbling over their beliefs, because their beliefs cannot stand up to the scrutiny of real science. Science that follows the scientific method and not the worldview of some men who use math and antiquated axioms and unproven theories to sell the world on the fantasy that is planets and galaxies and an endless vacuum where all these places exist. Alright, let's lay this out in a few diagrams to explain it. But first, we may need to spin the MIT chalkboard so that people better understand the second law of thermodynamics, and so now we will have the gas pressure at the ground level and the vacuum on top of it. We can watch, but the same holds true.
Take a gas in some volume, V, and over here is going to be vacuum, V equal volume, and we're going to remove the barrier. You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available.
Now, globe proponents have only one answer, and that answer is almost always the same: gravity. Yes, good old magic sauce. So gravity holds the gas to Earth. Well, let's see if we can show how this too is tragically flawed with some little diagrams I'll walk you through now. So in the first diagram we have a container, and we've got gas pressure or air on the left side, and then we've got a divider, and then we create a vacuum in the right side of the container. Now, as we remove the barrier or the divider, we know that the gas, the air, will immediately fill all the available space. High pressure to low pressure, always. In this case, we'd still have gas pressure because we are in a container, giving the remaining gas something to press on. Now we'll go to this next diagram where we're going to move. Instead, we're going to rotate our container, and this time create a vacuum on the top and the gas pressure below. Again, when we remove the divider, we know exactly what will happen. The gas will fill the void. Again, we still have gas pressure because we have a container, which is a necessary antecedent because we can't have gas pressure without the container to press on. Alright, now I've changed the diagram a little bit because I've taken the top off my container. We've made a vacuum on top and we have gas pressure below. We can only have gas pressure because the divider is there and we have a container below allowing the gas to press upon something. Alright, so now I have removed the walls in the vacuum and made it an infinite vacuum like we are told exists all around us. We can still have gas pressure though, below and in the container. But what do you suppose would happen if I remove the divider again? Well, if I take the top off the container which holds the gas, it is instantly gone into the void. High pressure to low pressure. Second law of thermodynamics. Well, of course, our gas pressure is all gone. It has nothing to press against and will immediately hold to that second law of thermodynamics and dissipate into the endless vacuum above. Now let's see if we can test the only explanation globe defenders have. It gets them out of all jams, maybe this one too. Will gravity hold the gas to the Earth? Now, if this was the case, if gravity holds gases to the Earth, then it will be quite easy to test this. Now, I don't have a vacuum pump or a chamber to do this test, but many do. I've seen people with vacuum chambers on YouTube. So let's look at this example. Let's say that we are on a sphere Earth and that gravity is, as Newton said, an attraction between masses. So we are on Earth and gravity is pulling down. In the left side of the chamber, we have gas pressure or air. On the right side, we create a vacuum. Okay, now here's the problem for globe defenders and space religious zealots. If I lower the divider just a tiny bit, just bring it down a hair, what do you think will happen to the gas on the left? Is this what globers believe? That only the gas at the top would fill the vacuum? Or would the gas fill the entire available space? Well, if you believe gravity holds the air pressure down to Earth, even though there is an adjacent vacuum, then you have an untested and an unproven claim because the gas will dissipate and fill the entire void. High pressure to low pressure, always. Now again, we'd still have gas pressure, but because we are in a container, giving the gas something to press upon. To show the impossibility of the consensus scientific belief, we again need to make the vacuum infinite. We again pull down our divider just an inch, and what do you think will happen? Well, of course, the high pressure gas will exit the chamber into the adjacent vacuum and be gone forever. No ifs, ands, or buts. Find someone with a vacuum chamber who can do this test at ground level where gravity is said to be the strongest, and you'll see if gravity will hold the gas to the Earth or if the gas will adhere to the second law and exit the vacuum. Now let me show a diagram that shows what we are taught. There's the Earth, and on it we have gas pressure. But there's no container. It is simply pressing down. But above that is the endless, expanding, empty, extremely low pressure of outer space without any divider and without a container. Well, that's simply insane and impossible. Of course, the gas pressure with no container and no divider will do what the second law of thermodynamics requires. It will go from high pressure to low. It will immediately leave Earth and fill the adjacent void, leaving no gas pressure, no air, nothing. Just the vacuum of space we are all taught exists all around us. So consensus science says we live on a sphere, a globe with this tiny sliver of gas pressure or atmosphere or air surrounding us. Yet this all exists next to an endless vacuum? But there is no container, no walls, no ceilings to press upon, and worse still, no divider. Well, it is simple to prove this is not reality, as with no divider, no barrier, you'd immediately lose all atmosphere on Earth to the vacuum of space. This doesn't even take into account that the Earth is said to be spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Ever been on the gravitron? As it spins, things are flung outwards. The atmosphere, the air, the gas pressure would be flung outwards, and of course, we would never even get to that point because there is no divider. There is no barrier, and hence the gas cannot even exist there to be flung outward anyway. It's long gone. The globe would have no air, no atmosphere, no gas pressure. No container, no gas pressure. No barrier, no gas pressure. And yet 99% of the world believes this vacuum of space exists directly next to the gas pressure we have on Earth, with no container, No barrier, no divider. The only thing they have is gravity that holds the gas pressure to Earth as it spins and flies through space at 2.2 million miles per hour. And yet, here we have gas pressure. I'm breathing it with every breath that I take. So the belief in a vacuum of space, an endless void of super low pressure, is simply impossible. Gravity, as I've just shown, doesn't solve this one at all. There's no proof, there's no experiment, they have no demonstration, they have no example. All they have is a religious belief in the vacuum of space. This is exactly why flat earthers like myself say that space, as you have been taught, is most certainly fake. To believe it exists as you were taught is simply a dogmatic belief in the religion of outer space. Again, something taught as science, but something that is clearly a pseudoscientific belief. Pseudoscience consists of statements, beliefs, or practices that are claimed to be both scientific and factual, but are incompatible with the scientific method. It is often characterized by contradictory, exaggerated, or unfalsifiable claims, a reliance on confirmation bias rather than rigorous attempts at refutation, and a lack of openness to evaluation by other experts, and absence of systematic practices when developing theories, and continued adherence long after they have been experimentally discredited. The term is considered pejorative because it suggests something is being presented as science inaccurately or even deceptively. If you want more examples of pseudoscience we are being taught, you can click the video that we'll show at the end of this video on how Einstein made the Earth move when all experiments showed it did not move. You can even go back and see that people throughout history have known about the vacuum of space and its impossibility. There's a term for you, it's called hor vacui. What's that mean? Well, it was coined by Aristotle and it means nature abhors a vacuum. Aristotle articulated this belief, which was criticized of course, that nature contains no vacuums because the denser surrounding material continuum would immediately fill the rarity of an incipient void. He said that by definition a void itself is nothing, and like Plato said, nothing cannot exist. And furthermore, insofar as it would be featureless and it could neither be encountered by the senses, nor could its supposition lend additional explanatory power. And yet, here we are, told this vacuum is endless and it encompasses us all from every angle. So who is it that's stumbling over their beliefs? Who is believing in the impossible mediums and photos that we are told are taken from this fake place?
You're like stumbling over your own belief.
Well, it's not a belief. 7th time on this show. Repeat after me, Wiggles. This is not my belief. It is a natural law.
It's like you're stumbling over your own belief.
Not
like,
stumbling. Quite clear, quite concise, very slowly paced. For you, Wiggles. Not stumbling, Wiggles.
It wouldn't the professors pick up on that the second law?
That seems like you're stuttering. Are you projecting your inability to hold a decent sentence together onto me, Wiggles? Because it seems that way. We have covered twice. I have a video from a professor at MIT who explains that if you have a vacuum and you have a gas pressure, precisely the setup we have in your religious belief about Earth, then the gas would fill the space.
You know what's going to happen spontaneously, right? The gas is going to fill the available volume once it becomes available.
So when you ask me if the professors would have picked up on this already, I say yes. I have a demonstration of somebody explaining the law of thermodynamics and how if you have a vacuum next to a gas pressure and you remove the barrier that apparently we don't need in the heliocentric version of the world, then the gas would fill the space. So given that we still have gas here, I would assert that you can't have a vacuum of space, Wiggles. It defies that natural law discussed in detail by the professors that you are asking if they know this or not. Yes, Wiggles, they know that there is a natural law called the second law of thermodynamics, and it dictates that the gas would fill the space. I don't believe I stuttered or stammered once in that explanation, Wiggles. Maybe you'd like to respond to the very specific things that I actually said.
Yeah, so wouldn't the professor have also picked up on this?
Sorry.
He just explained to you the professors saying exactly the same thing. Nathan
Yeah, but like,
said.
okay, or the other thing I should add, like Nathan, do you think that the professor thinks that outer space exists?
I don't care. I have played his exact words on a video that explains how if you have a vacuum and a gas pressure next to each other and you remove the barrier, then the gas fills the space. That's what he explained.
So you can catch the entirety of this conversation by clicking the link in the description, and you can tune in daily to watch the mental gymnastic routines that globe defenders must exhibit in order to hold on to their religious beliefs. So go back and watch these diagrams I drew if you still cannot grasp the issue. This is why on Flat Earth Debates there is a series of questions that is asked at the start of the show called housekeeping. One of these many questions asks for evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container. There is a reason why no one has answered this question yet. Because they can't. Because you cannot have a globe with gas pressure as we breathe every single day next to a vacuum. It is simply impossible. And the glober that finally can show this surely has a Nobel Prize waiting for him by breaking and disproving a natural law, the second law of thermodynamics, a law of nature. Again, only those who choose not to see will hate this video because it debunks the fantasy land vacuum of space that we are all taught exists. So if space is fake, so are all the photos said to be taken from said fake place. Space is fake, period. Now you can see why you are taught these things at an age where you are unable to question. Now you can see why no physicist can entertain these concepts or seriously consider them, because it might just debunk their entire careers. Now you can see why NASA exists, why moon landings can never be admitted to be a fraud and a hoax. Now you know why the ISS is said to be flying around in this endless vacuum. Because they need you to believe in it and not to think on it too strongly. Because when you do, you can start to see the holes, and when you begin to remove the lies, well, all that's left is the truth. A big thank you to all my patrons who made this channel possible. If you'd like to support this channel and my work, you can use PayPal or join my patrons, or you can mail me something to the address on the screen. Or if you want to support me for free, simply by going to my website before you shop at Amazon, just go to jaronism.com, hover over the support tab in the top menu, and then click Amazon. You will then be taken to Amazon where you can shop as you normally do and pay what you normally pay, and I get a small percent. Or you can simply type j.mp/JaronAMZ into any web browser and you will be taken to Amazon as well. So back by popular demand, we have a recent patron who just joined who will be dancing in elation here at the end of my video for joining the coolest group on Flat Earth. And as I leave, I'll remind you as always to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. This has been Jaronism. Until next time. Peace!